Hi everyone, I'm Echoes and I'm a VTuber. So this will be kind of a bit of a more different type of video than usual, as I want to talk about Tsurune Season 2 a lot, because it's one of my favorite shows this season for a lot of reasons, which I'll explain briefly, and then I'll also afterwards react a bit to episode 7, which is one episode in the season that I particularly like, which I'll show shortly. But why I like Tsurune is that the funny thing is that I liked season 1. I thought it was alright as a KyoAni show. It wasn't at the time one of my favorites. But somehow, with season 2, it feels like they sort of understood what they could have done better. And it became almost perfect. It's like you already go from a product that's like good to amazing. And that's through like improved direction, beautiful visuals, incredible attention to detail. It's a lot like, it's kind of in a way like Gun Witch from Mercury, where there's attention to the details, but it feels so much more intimate and personal than Witch from Mercury is. And because it's something that I also can relate to as well on a personal level, as it sort of embodies the feelings I've had when I was in high school when I played tennis. It reminded me of that time of wanting, in a way, wanting what this show had when I was younger. As you can see the bond between this group of boys on the archery team, which is known as Kyudo, Japanese Kyudo. And I couldn't help but feel a bit nostalgic and a bit envious, but also really wanting to root for these boys and wanting them to continue to improve themselves, because in a way, Kyudo is a lot like figure skating and tennis. It is very much individualistic oriented rather than a complete focus on teams. But regardless, the team is important anyway, because you have to work together in order to go defeat your opponents. I'm talking about specifically singles. Doubles, obviously, the work is more team oriented just because of the nature of it. But there's a certain sense that it's you yourself has to continue to improve, as otherwise you are in a way hindering your team. If you're not good enough, then you're just dead weight, you know. Yeah. So yeah, because when I was playing tennis, I didn't really have that same bond with my teammates. I always felt that I was alone, even in a group, in a bus full of people. I'd always feel alone. But I realize now that as time passed, I realized that perhaps it just wasn't meant to be, or that I just closed my heart off too much to a point that I couldn't relate to any of my teammates. It's just how things ended up being in a way. But anyway, so yeah, so Serenity is a very special series. It's one of my favorite shows of the season because of that intimacy. You feel like you get to really know the characters, you get to know their perspectives. They're not just tropes. They're not just shallow people. They're in reality feel very human with their own struggles and dilemmas, and they trying to work together in order to resolve them as much as possible. There's that human element which sometimes anime lacks, and also in a way the show also brings some faith back, because anime in general recently has had sort of the downfall of not really being able to, what's the word for it? It feels like they're making too much anime and they're not putting enough care into it. It's a shame, because when anime is at its peak, it's truly a beautiful form of art and media. It's something that does what other shows, forms of media often can't do. It has, it can be incredibly beautiful, incredibly moving, an incredible piece of art. But when rushed, when people aren't given enough time, when there's strict deadlines, when there's corporate perspective that doesn't really understand how much work and effort goes into these series, it's just such a shame. But Tsurune and Kyoto Animation are exception, because they've always focused on their own series. They're very much kind of like closed house in a way. They're very much like focus on themselves. They don't really get easily influenced by outside influences as much. And because of it, they also understand the importance of treating their employees and also coworkers and friends very well. They understand what it's like to be an artist, be in the corporate world, and they don't push their artists to a point that they can't work anymore. They don't undervalue them. They don't treat them as being disposable. And yeah, it really shows in their series. Not that Kyoto Animation hasn't missed. They have missed before. That just happens, just I guess, to anyone. But if even if you may not be interested in season 1 Tsurune, it's sort of needed for context because it is about a group of kids who are, part of an archery team and trying their best to work together. It has more the individualistic element rather than shows like Haikyuu, Kuroka Basket, which are far more team oriented, just due to the nature of their sports. But yeah, it's just really special, I think. And season 2 is exception among exceptions. But yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go into why I'm gonna talk about episode 7 specifically. I actually will rewatch this episode like several times because of how much I liked it. I really like it a lot. It's so good, and I'm like, it frustrates me when people aren't watching it because of the season 2. I didn't know. I wasn't sure about whether to react to this series because initially I just wasn't sure, but then I realized now I regret, and I'm like, But regardless, this may just be a one-off, just because I don't know whether other episodes are as dense or as me willing to talk about it. Because this episode specifically, episode 7 of Tsurune, which is called Unwavering Spirit, it pretty much focuses a lot on how the team is trying to learn something called, I think it's their own ikigai, which is kind of like, I consider like being in the zone or all the pieces going together. It's like a group of people working together in harmony in order to be at their best. So in a way, it's like you're at the pinnacle of your craft, even in a short moment. And the best archers and teams can do this. But right now, they don't really know how to achieve it, so they're trying to figure that out. And we also learn a bit more about Ryohei, who in a way is the newest member of the team, and he has the least experience in archery. And he feels that he has to catch up to everyone else. And also we learn a bit more about Shu, who's sort of like, what's it called? He's like the rich kid of the group, but he's also so good. But we didn't really know about him that much. He was like super rich. He goes to this prestigious school that has an excellent archery team. He's on the archery team. But we kind of feel that in a way he's superhuman because he's so good. But then this episode brings back that humanity back to him. We understand that he's more than just a good archer, more than just a rich kid. He really is someone who truly has his own struggles and is trying in his own way to overcome them. So yeah, a lot of character development in this episode. So why I really like it. It's so good.